Welcome to Values and Vibes. Today we're going to talk about power with my two favorite guests, CEO and founder of Revalue 180, Tia Lancaster, and business psychologist, Luisa Bulow. We're going to talk about power, the silent force that shapes destinies and defines civilizations. From ancient empires to modern leadership, power shapes the world around us. Let's journey together into the heart of power and discover the wisdom it holds right here on Values and Vibes. Welcome to Values and Vibes. Today we're going to talk about power as a value with my, of course, two favorite guests, Luisa Bulow and Tia Lancaster. Surprisingly.
We're not going anywhere.
Here we are again. Hope you want to listen to us.
So, Luisa, can you first define what is power as a value from a Revalue 180 model, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, so we're going to do power this week, and power is to exert influence, control, and authority over others.
Nice. Tia, do you have anything to add about that?
Power is a tough one for me, just because I think that even me might be an issue kind of with like some of the way that I might even lead, even in my own company. I have a very negative attachment to that word for some reason, because I guess I think that you seek power through seeking collaboration in a way, which is funny because collaboration sits across from power. And it's funny that we mentioned this before the podcast started. In a lot of reports that we've been seeing, especially with this huge trial that we've just concluded, I haven't seen too many powers in people's final eight. So I don't know if people want to have power and they just shy away from choosing it. Sometimes I see it in younger people, like younger men and women, who I think that, of course, you are striving in a sense for more power because people create power with money and success and climbing the corporate ladder. But I think power has a lot of kind of intentions around it that can seem not so pleasant and maybe have like, but I think like anything else, it's when it's abused or used, to an extreme.
I mean, you can have power to control other people, and therefore it's about your own successes and your own message and what you want to get out there. And there's a lot of figures historically who have used power for the complete wrong and for scapegoating and all the negatives and awful things that happen in the world. And then you have people who use it to achieve their higher goals and actually who can use it for more of a vocation or the greater good. But I think the connotation of the word is we look at that first one. We look at that, okay, power, that's bad because that's all about controlling other people. And yes, it is, but it's if you use that for the bad, that's where power becomes what Tia said.
Like anything else. I agree. I mean, I think that like a powerful minister or a powerful rabbi or shaman or whatever it may be could be a beautiful, wonderful thing if their message is powerful. Like if you think about people who give these amazing speeches, whether they're politically motivated or religiously or what have you, even just in the classroom with the professor or a teacher, I think there's great power in words and in actions. So I think that maybe it's, for me, I don't like the word itself, but I think that you can show great power in many, many positive ways. So I do agree with Luisa, but I think the word itself sometimes kind of evokes some connotations of negativity, which it shouldn't, but that might just be something personal for me,
So when I was speaking with people, they told me like power is coming from respect. Power is coming from somebody who's having a lot of money. Power is coming because when you're allowed, like to say no to something, you have a power on that situation.
That's true.
Can you make like let's go from power and respect. If somebody is like having like a value of respect, does he also wants to have a power or on a different way? What is your?
I think if you can see what you think, Louisa. I think that if you show others respect, then you oftentimes, consideration, respect, you get that then back. I do think that if you're in a leadership role, that could evoke a sense of power. And I think that power could be viewed in a very positive manner. I think, I guess it depends upon once you get into that powerful role, if you continue to walk the talk as a leader that's really trying to show, put his or her best foot in front of him to show like good examples of powerful behavior. Yeah, I definitely think that you can garner respect, and as you garner more respect, you probably garner more power. And isn't that exactly how maybe elections go, political elections? I think that you're trying to get that ultimate power, but to be a leader, but you should be a leader of the people. So that power should be something that's greater than one, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think you can channel power through respect, you can channel respect through power, but what comes to mind to add to Tia's point is that respect sits in regulation, which is all about that routine and discipline and social framework. So actually, if you have power on its own and you're exerting that influence, it might be a bit sporadic just as a value on its own. Like, when do you use it and why do you use it? If you have the respect and that helps you to have more boundaries around it, and that two-way street of that giving and receiving that we've already spoken about, I think it can help how your power emerges. And then the higher up you go and the more respect you're showing.
Yeah, what's funny is if I'm going to think about power in the form of just like language or linguistics or something, I actually like power more as an adverb or an adjective. A powerful speech, a powerful movie, a powerful message. I like it when it's describing something else, if that makes sense. But power in its kind of intrinsic self is I guess what kind of gives me kind of that feeling in my stomach. Does that make sense? I mean,
When you say that and you said powerful, I thought like, okay, a powerful person, and then I just thought of someone like big and broad, and that's again the same thing as power's doing. It's creating this bias in your head when actually someone who's powerful in my mind is maybe achieved a lot, and it depends on what I view that power and success to be. But that was where my mind went, so it's the same kind of bias coming out.
True, I guess you're right. I mean, I guess that's why I always just think of powerful to me as more of an adjective than actually as an action, like a verb in a sense.
Although if I think powerful women, I don't think the biggest, or I think
no, you think of a powerful woman is someone maybe who stood up for those wronged, or maybe a social justice warrior. I mean, I guess it could just be used. It's just a really, really interesting term. I mean, think about it.
But in a positive light, because again, going off this
very positive, I agree.
Powerful woman thing, I think of women who've faced a lot of adversity and have carried on, and that's why it sits in personal empowerment, because they're able to push through in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I would like Maria, who's pushed through, being a cancer survivor. I would say that she's a powerful survivor.
She's a powerful woman.
So yeah, so I think she's powerful. I think as a mother, this is now Tia the mother. I think as Tia's the mother, when you're raising kids, I would probably not usually. Maybe never use that word. You want to go to school and you want to be powerful. I mean, you want to be. I think that you attain power by being a good, respected, trusted leader, friend, example to others. And then therefore you're attaining a positive sense of power. So if I was going to talk about it to my children in the car on the way to school and they asked me about it, that's the way I would define it. So I guess that's why I keep thinking of it as more of an adjective than an action verb, if that makes sense. Like, I want power, I want to be, I mean, I don't know.
But why people who have a lot of money, they think immediately, oh, I have a power. Is that true, or honestly, it's not true? You're just like a lot.
I think it opens doors where you can exert your power. So actually, I can take everyone on a trip and pay for it, and therefore they're going to love me and do what I want them to, because ultimately, I think people use, or money can end up making them believe they have the power more than they actually have it.
And you're right, they do have the power to like get in maybe the best reservations, and they have the power to get their kids into the best schools because they can donate millions of dollars to the front door of the university and build a library. I mean, there's a lot of ways, but I think that sometimes that's an abuse of power. I mean, not always. I think people who have great sums of money do amazingly powerful things by funding charities and helping to, fund things to cure illnesses. And so, I mean, I think when there's uprisings and you have governments that are mistreating people, and power to the people who rise up and, you know, take the power back. So I don't know, power. I asked Victoria, my writer, on the way out the door, I said, can you define power for me? She goes, that's too hard. It's too late. I gotta go.
Ah.
So I think it's like, she's a writer. So I think that it's interesting. I mean,
But if you go back to evolution, power was giving people better resources. That's what power was doing initially, right? If you could exert that influence and then you were the top, so you got the nicest shelter or whatever, and you got to eat first, or these kind of things. Maybe that relates to that money aspect.
Well, let's just talk about, I mean, yeah, yes, I guess we got off the money aspect. I think if you go back just to the money, I think that ties into the whole idea of when we talked about that Monopoly game. That's why before that we started the podcast, I said, well, I remember talking about this, and the whole idea of that French philosopher or something that did the documentary or written a book about it, was how these people in the Monopoly game, the team that got the advantage in the beginning, so they knew they were going to win, how their entire attitude changed. They started to own more condominiums and started to attain all these properties on the Monopoly board. And it just happened. So I think that money can oftentimes bring these people this false sense of thinking that they are greater than other people. And I think that that's not a nice side to power. But think about power though in this way, without like to power up your computer or if you didn't have power. I mean, I was here with the Wi-Fi guys were just here, and why we had to start late because I don't have enough power when I have all of you guys in my kitchen or something. I wanted to work, but power is all around us and just everything we do and everything we are. And it's just has so many different definitions of power. Where you think about respect and, you know, and honesty, and they have different meanings in different situations, but not like that. You know what I mean? Like power is actually a word of like, we need power so we can eat and, you know, cook our food, and we need, you know what I mean? Our electricity. It's power. It's funny.
You're gonna love maybe this example when you were mentioning Monopoly game and how people are thinking that they're, you know, they're entitled to some power. So when I used to work in high school, I was a high school teacher, and I was always telling them about organizational skill. How can they be better when they work in company? And you know, like, and I said for the start, let's go from the salary. How much money you should have? You know, what would be your first salary because you just finished the high school? You know, so I gave them 2 blank papers, and in Serbia we sit next to each other, like we, you know, like next to each other. And I said, okay, write how much should be your salary, and write your skills. What do you know? You know, you just finish your high school, and that's it. They write, and they, of course, they're managing like, I don't know, like crazy amount of money because they think they're like, for example, $1,000, for example. In Serbia, that's a huge salary. And then I said, okay, what is your skill? You don't speak English, you don't speak Serbian, you know, like you're just healthy. What do you know to do?
Right.
Why would you give you that salary? And then I said on the other paper, you can just say what you know about your next to you. So there was like 2 boys. So I said, what your friend next to you, how much salary you would give him if you're employer, you know, how much?
Yeah, if you employed this person.
$100. He doesn't know nothing. He's lazy. He's sleeping all day. He's just
Oh,
watching Instagram.
that's a
you know,
crazy.
like,
That goes to one of our blockers.
okay, now switch the papers, and that's reality. That's how I'm gonna see you as employer. You're lazy. You don't know. You don't speak English. What is your skills? And why do you think that you should have like a huge salary? And they're of course laughing about that. That was so for them like a wake up call. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
that's like a real world example. That was a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing that with them. They love that example, and then they realize like, okay, if I'm employee, why I'm changing that? Why would I give somebody like a huge salary if they don't have skills, they don't bring value, you know, like and everything. So I think also my question after this is like, of course, why younger crowd thinks a lot about power? They're like always like, oh, he's so powerful, you know, or she's doing this, she knows she have connections, she knows the people, she can arrange this quickly. Nobody can get that. I'm gonna fix that. Why?
Well,
it's
I
them?
think that's social media. I think that they're just like the younger generations, and Louisa being the youngest, and you're quite young yourself there, Milena, but she's the youngest, I think,
Fine.
and probably even relate less to even like the early 20s now. I mean, already you're past that, Louisa, but I think a lot of it's social media. That's what young people are seeing, and they see them as powerful people because they are. They're wielding a lot of, you know, social power. People want to look like them, dress like them. They want to start having face work when they're in their early 20s. I mean, isn't that all related to power? I don't know, isn't that's, and you know what, that's what really even, gosh, so interesting, is that's the third P to our model, is the power influences, the perpetuate. It's when you get to like, okay, I prioritize my values, okay, now I see where my value blockers are, you know, where my unconscious biases sit, when I'm, you know, kind of my lost or forgotten values, and now I have to perpetuate my values. And to perpetuate, the first thing you can do before you get down to value-based living is I ask people, we ask them in an interview question or setting, what is the power and influence in your life that prevents you from getting to the real things, to really get down to value-based living? So we even use power, but we're kind of in our model around our atlas, we're using it as kind of this kind of almost like gravitational pull on a person that's pulling them away from what's important. So that's, you know, so that's a power influence in our model, which is funny. I didn't even think about that until right now.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the value is about your own successes, your own selfishness to a certain extent, because that's what personal empowerment is about. And being selfish, again, can be good because you can start to exert some self-care and development and mastery and skills and maybe get more power from being more influential and going up the corporate ladder, which I think Milena and I talked just before you logged on, Tia, about a lot of people. Milena was saying a lot of people see power as job related and getting themselves up to the next level. And I think that's true. And I know someone who I just talked about who very much is influenced by the power value and actually worked in an organization that's very flat and not many levels to crawl up. And actually, I could tell that was the reason they didn't want to be there anymore, because they wanted a pecking order. They wanted to be able to climb, and that wasn't allowing them that. And that was going against that power that they needed.
Yeah.
Well, that they wanted, and that was okay. That was their motivation. So that was
it's not a bad motivation. I mean, because that's like that in a lot of ways, when you're wanting to climb the corporate ladder and succeed, I consider that more self-empowerment in a way, which is different than wielding power over other people. I mean, if you're self-empowered and you have empowerment, those are things, you know, you want people like in very kind of misbalanced relationships. So maybe there's a spouse or a partner that's being abused in relationship, and there's really a lack of power on their side. I think that's a situation where you really hope that person that might be in an abusive situation can be empowered, whether or not that's through getting the right counseling, surrounding themselves with the right people that can help them, the right friends, the right family. But I think there's a lot of power imbalances that go on in interpersonal relationships. And I think that there's something called like emotional power that oftentimes there can be shifts in friendships and marriages, just in partnerships, whatever it might be. And I think that's an interesting dynamic when you talk about those power imbalances within, you know, interpersonal relationships.
That's so interesting. That's sorry, Milena. It's just made me think of power is almost this right to control others, but empowerment doesn't have that same power. It's actually about recognizing that someone did something by themselves and that they put themselves up and got themselves
exactly there. And it's exactly right. So that's the way I think about it. So I think that when you think of maybe friends or family or people that maybe aren't in good situations with friends or partners, you think of how can they have self-empowerment to really go outside of this situation and realize that they're worthy, they're better. So I think those are all kind of the very positive parts of being self-empowered. And I think when you think about great leaders, you think about, you know, I don't know, Mother Teresa's and Gandhi's. I know in different circles he's been canceled, but just those types of people who really try to lead with goodness. That is a lot about self-empowerment, and that's about spreading that self-empowerment and spreading that word of positivity to people. And that isn't like an empowerment of people and the empowerment of societies. I don't know. It's really interesting.
I was speaking with people about power, and I remember one guy. He was really, really close friend, and he was, you know, he was like in math college. You know, he was like studying like science, and then one day he switched to become a doctor, and he told me, Milena, believe me, one day I was there and I like solved some issue, you know, like nothing special, and I got the power that day. I realized that power can be such a motivation, And he
Yeah.
switched, he left like college, like almost done college, math college, you know, like almost done, like fourth year, you know, like he's like have like 2-3 exams, that's it. No, he switched to becoming a doctor, and he goes
Wow.
straight from the zero. And he told me, believe me, I can feel power every day. I'm healing people. I'm like
Well,
doing
that is amazing. The power of healing is really an amazing thing. And I think that especially in the world of physicians and in medicine, I mean, to me, some of them, I was with two famous doctors last night, a famous dermatologist and a famous geneticist who actually has a disease named after him, because there's 27 people across the world with this particular genetic disease. You know, Maria's cancer is based in a gene, and different gene diseases in my own family. And I just think the power that you can have as someone who is looking for a cure for a disease, or as a doctor they're curing, you know, cancer or making things better is pretty incredible. But that's kind of interesting too, because they talk about like brain surgeons as being so arrogant, okay? And they're so powerful, right? Because they are operating on your brain, right? And it's, you know, very tedious, very small. Sometimes the surgeries can be however many hours. Heart surgeons, brain surgeons, and people often talk about how they're just not very nice people. But they walk into a room and they are exerting a lot of power. Oftentimes, though, I remember saying to people when Maria was, you know, very sick and going through all of her cancer treatments, I didn't care. I wanted the best guy. If he was going to have that kind of power, maybe he needed to have that psyche in
Yeah.
order to be able to do that kind of work. Because imagine you just can't have an off day when you have someone's life in the balance. So it's interesting. That's a really great point, Milena.
Yeah,
About
I was thinking about him, and I was like, I remember that he told me that literally power motivate him to
is he a
switch.
good doctor? Have
He's
you
an
ever
amazing
kept up with
doctor,
him at all?
and he's also eye doctor. He's really, really good. And
Well, that's one of the toughest ones to get into, residency,
I
is
think people
ophthalmology.
choose that field because it's the toughest field. So I think because I'm telling you, literally, he changed his life, and he was already, you know, like old, like he was already 24 years old, you know, like
Yeah,
that's
well,
old.
for university to start
Yeah.
over, because
Yes.
medical school, especially with an ophthalmologist, that's one of the longest
Yeah, I
residencies.
think now he's my age, like 36. He just done, you know, but he's
Yeah.
already working
Yeah.
hospital and everything. But with education, I think he just done, you know, like 10 years after, you know, like
Oh, Maria's doctor was like an ocular oncologist, so he's not only like basically is an eye doctor, he also had to become an oncologist, a surgeon.
yes,
He was
yes,
literally 35 and he didn't even do another different degree like your friend did first. And he was 35 and when he diagnosed me with cancer, and he'd been working for like a year. You know what I mean? But I mean, they've been working forever because they're always, you know, doing
yes,
their residency
of
rounds,
course.
but still, you know, it's
Yes. So
crazy.
I think honestly, I have always a great feeling about power, not thinking about like power. I'm in Miami now, and you know, like when I mention power, everybody's like, oh, he can have a VIP spot in front of the restaurant. And I was like, I didn't think about that power. I was, you know, like I was
Yeah,
thinking of
that's
in
true.
the
Think about
parking
like,
garage. It's just fine
yeah.
to be like VIP of the VIP parking, you know, like so for me it's hard and I'm sad honestly that people are using like power in a bad way, because
Yeah.
you're not powerful if people are like listening because they're scared of you. You're
Well, you
powerful
could,
if you have
well,
like
you could
a
have.
message and everybody respect you, and then you got power.
I agree, but think about Taylor Swift. I mean, she's taken over the world. She has a lot of power. And I think her power over the young people, I mean, whether people love her or hate her, she's really been a good example. You don't read about her like, you know, you don't see her wasted doing drugs and some kind of like,
Like
you
bad
know,
influence.
yeah, you're not seeing a lot of bad stuff in social media about her. I think that and people love to hate people who are good as well. And these young girls around the world and really kind of almost they say she's one of the most powerful people across the planet. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
it's pretty crazy. So once there, you see that she's a powerful entertainer who hopefully will continue to use that platform she has for the good of others, as well as, you know, for the good of herself, because she's obviously incredibly wealthy.
Yeah, I think we should talk about like good example. For example, in Serbia, huge, powerful, and he have like he have a lot of influence, but good influence is Novak Djokovic, of course. So
Yeah.
everybody's like talking about he's not using drugs, he's healthy, his wife is really nice lady, he doesn't use a lot of makeup, she look naturally. They spoke a lot about good health, about good habits, about parenting, you know, like so. Let's talk about good examples. Do you have an
Yeah.
example who would be really powerful like in your life that make like impact and motivate you? like you know, you're always thinking about, when you think about power, that's that person, VIP person in my life.
It's like I would look at someone like my dad, who I see as a powerful human being and things he's overcome in his life and who he is and what he represents is he is a kind of guy who, if he starts talking, people will listen to, which
Right.
obviously at an extreme can become, people can view that as arrogance and all this kind of thing, but actually he's a very successful businessman. He is someone that people stop and they look at and they love. All my friends love him, and I look at him as someone who's a great figure, who's very giving and very generous and uses that influence for the good, whether it's perceived sometimes as too much talking at dinner party or whatever.
Right.
I would
Everyone
say
has an
that came-
opinion. Everyone has an opinion.
That's what that came to mind. Yeah. And he's not, and speaking of opinions, he is not someone who's scared of saying his opinion, and he's very well read, and he will say, okay, yeah, that's what I think about that. And if it's controversial, it's controversial, but
Yeah,
that's
he
kind of
stands
person.
behind it. He
Yeah.
walks the talk, which is
Yeah.
good. You know? I mean, I guess like if we're going to talk about family, then my most powerful family member is always, I mean, all my kids are powerful in a different way. But I'm only afraid of Maria. So I guess she's she exerts the most power and she is a survivor. So I guess I think I like survivorship in general, because I think, like I've always said, I started this model because I wanted to understand whether or not people had to suffer in order to live. And I think that if you suffer and then you live valiantly and you do what you can to bring to the world some real positivity, then I think that that's powerful. So I think that that shows power to me, is people
know-
who get through adversity and they come out on the other side.
Yeah, and this is my thing, because you can go with these big names, and there are big names that are powerful, but actually, Radio 2, the BBC Radio 2 in the UK, on the Coming Home show, when I used to commute in my car, was this like Sarah Cox does it, and she does like a Sarah Award, and people can write in if they've seen almost like a random act of kindness, or someone helped them that day or something like that. Or someone's overcome something and they want to tell that story and they win like a Sarah Award or whatever. But
Yeah.
some of the things people do for others or have stood out and influenced or said something, or that kind of thing, is what I think is a powerful person. Someone who has power is someone who's used it for something for the greater good. And I look at our two examples. So my dad and Maria, they're using their power is their autonomy, it's their freedom. So it's that idea of you can't control me, and they're powerful people because other powerful people can't influence them.
Right. That's very true. If you can stand from the crowd and stand up for what you believe and what you think, then I think that there's power in that. So I think that that's truly, I think the most powerful people are often not the ones that are kind of making the most money and standing out in front of people. I do think it's that little guy who's opens the door for you in the morning, or helps you carry your coffee, or the guy at the market who carries your groceries. I think that those are all forms of power that are really kind of beautiful in the world.
I need to mention Nikola Tesla is also from Serbia, and I'm so proud that he invented electric power. That he's electric company.
He literally has power.
Yeah, he truly has power.
Yeah,
So,
completely.
I just, from the respect, I admire him the most. I'm like researching a lot of him. Like this year, I started to read about him, and I'm like, I cannot believe what this guy did. And for me, Nikola Tesla for start. And of course, I'm gonna go back to my husband, because I think he have a lot of power to say no to things that he doesn't want to do. And even if it's like a peer pressure, you know, in the company. So I think he have power in that, because he's so independent, and he's doing opposite that what crowds think, you know. So that's why I'm mentioning him like a powerful person. Also, I think that he have a lot of influence to his friends, to his employees and everybody, because he's bringing like a good example to a lot of people. I think that he's not even aware of that, but I just want to mention that because he was really, really, really powerful person. That I'm like, I really admire him, and I'm witnessing that day by day. And he's doing only things from his gut feeling,
Yeah.
and
From
only
his heart.
straight from love. So
That's the autonomy that I'm
yes,
talking
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So
Exactly.
if you're gonna go to family, I'm gonna say my husband. But if
Yeah.
you're gonna go to world famous person, I would mention Nikola Tesla, of course. Novak Djokovic these years,
Of
but
course, of course.
Nikola Tesla
There's so-
for me.
And
like,
there's so many great athletes out there who do model such good behavior, and that's great. I mean, it just really, I think that power is used best, especially if you're in the public eye, when you really are reflecting the best values in the model, when you're showing people some of those things that we talk about, when you have respect for others, and you're that person that say, oh, well, he always has a happy word. I mean, another great, if we're going to talk tennis players, Djokovic is Nadal. They talk about he was one of the most liked guys on the tour because he's the most like Buddha. They wrote this article, the CNN did, like how he's like a Buddhist monk. And he came from money. He wasn't like he was this poor kid who was
Yeah.
like, he came from money, but he really had this kind of nirvana about him, you know what I mean? Just peace, where he understood that winning and losing is not just about winning every single match. Like you can be a good loser, and you can say hello to everybody on the tour, and it was just really an amazing article. So I think power comes in being a good leader at the end of the day.
I think because I should have my spin-off podcast of things Louisa learns, because power is not something that I do this every time. I'm like, wow, this is a great value.
Yeah.
It's a
I
value
love
that
that also.
I discarded it very I think
Oh yeah, me
round
too.
I'm just not interested in the idea of power, but talking now and the idea of being able to resist the influence of others is now how I'm seeing it. You can't control me because I'm a powerful woman and I'm gonna have my own thoughts and opinions. And maybe that the fact I did get rid of it straight away, and it's not a blocked value of mine, but I probably do underuse it. I don't actually assert myself. I do have blockers in global vision, which
I
block
agree.
those kind of behaviors. So actually
Mhm.
it's a lovely thing to be able to be autonomous and have the
Yeah.
freedom that power gives
Well,
you.
I mean, exactly. And I always talk about my youngest, but my middle two, like my middle daughter, like they all show me different forms of power that I wish I had. Like, I mean, just to be a writer and for Victoria to have the courage to share your views to the world and write that in a fictional story, can hold a lot of power. I guess I just think that like if you're seeking power for power itself, I don't think you're going to get far. I think when you seek to do things in your life that are meaningful and purposeful and driven by things that really matter to you, power naturally will come to you, is what I think.
I agree with that.
If you believe, my last question would be, can you share some powerful message? Yes, for me, a powerful quote that I'm always thinking about, and because I'm always scared about something, because I think when you're like growing and you want to do something different and jump out of your comfort zone, you fear it's normal thing. So a couple of times in really heavy situations when I need to be brave, and then I decided like, okay, I'm just gonna brainwash myself. I'm just gonna repeat that quote. So I just want to mention that quote because it's so powerful for me. It's a Serbian military leader and general who played a significant role in Serbian military history, and he have this quote: "Who dares can, who knows no fear moves forward." And why I'm mentioning this, it's because it's giving you motivation that in that moment when I'm repeating that, I'm feeling more powerful, brings me power. So that's why I'm mentioning that quote, and I love that quote so much.
But how powerful are those words to you?
Yeah,
So powerful.
it's amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So powerful. So do you have some powerful message so we can use power in a good way?
Do
Do you know what I do? I just where I grab my phone. I write down quotes every now and then that I've seen or heard.
I do the same.
And I was just looking through it, and one I always remember is this: the most interesting plants grow in the shade. And I don't know
What?
why, but they're things that make me think that, not everything that's out there and visible and the brightest star, is always the most interesting. So
Wow,
that's one that always I remember.
I love that. I'm gonna use that. That's all. That's so. It's so. So motivating. Like you just don't need to be like like it's your moment when it's your moment. You just need to be patient,
100%.
and it's
And this is the other one. figure out who you are and do it on purpose. And I don't know where I heard that, but I just liked that.
Wow.
Well,
Awesome, awesome. I love that also.
Let me think. Let me see if I usually do the same.
it's
Um,
interesting though, because then thinking now of those ones I've read, but there's that expression of I can't remember, I'm not going to be able to articulate it, but diamonds are made under pressure, right? That
Yes.
one.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
The different variations of
like
that.
I was mentioning a little earlier, sometimes when I'm seeking to say something powerful to my children or a friend, or when you're in that tough situation and you don't really know how a situation is going to turn out and you're waiting for news and acceptance or what have you, as I always say to them, hope for the best, expect the least, and take what comes. So for some reason in that quote, I that gives me power in a sense, power over my emotions, that I can't control the universe. Maybe that's a self-empowerment quote then more than anything else, because I don't necessarily think it relates to power at all, but I think it helps to put things in perspective when you really don't feel like you have any power over a situation. Does that make sense?
It makes
Yeah.
sense. Of course. Thank you so much. Let's jump on the next episode, and let's continue this every Sunday. Watch us and find out something new about values.
Thank you.
Bye.